Greetings, fellow humans. My name is Alistair Lord and I am the Renaissance Yorkshireman. So today's video is about the masculine path of healing. And if you've seen some of my other videos in this series, you'll know that there are two distinct paths of healing. One is the masculine path of healing and the other is the feminine path of healing. The feminine path of healing is concerned with unconditional love, and the masculine path of healing is concerned about understanding and then taking action on that understanding by building it into a coherent narrative which serves you. So that's it. Understanding and building that understanding into a coherent narrative. Now, before I give you an example of this, it's worth bearing in mind two pertinent points. Now, the first point is that you will never be privy to all of the relevant information that you need for your path of healing. But that doesn't matter. You just have to accept that you're never going to get all of the information, but you need to go out and seek as much information as you can possibly find. And the second pertinent point is that understanding is all well and good, and understanding is better than not understanding why things happen to you in your childhood and how you can heal from them. But unless you take action, the understanding by itself is extremely limited. You need to build that understanding into a coherent narrative which serves you, and whether it does or does not make sense to anyone else is unimportant. It only needs to make sense to you. And probably you're not going to share this with other people anyway. So you don't need to justify your internal narrative to anyone else. It just needs to help you move through your life in a positive manner. So I'll give you an example from my own life. So when I was a baby, my father was diagnosed with cancer and he was ill all the time that I knew him, and he died when I was 14. And this, had quite an impact on me in my childhood. Also, my father had an anger management issue, and I developed an anger management issue myself in my childhood. And then as I got older, the voices of my anger issue became my own voices rather than the voice of my father. And this is common, if you study any kind of Jungian psychology. So about 10 years ago, I made the decision that I needed to deal with my anger. And this has been a long and winding path. And as part of understanding this, about 4 or 5 years ago, I went to speak to my aunt. And my aunt was the only person still alive who knew my father as a child. So I asked her lots of questions and we discussed certain things, and I got information that I simply didn't know before. And there was no other way of me to get this information than going and having this conversation with my aunt. Now, as it turns out, about a year later, my aunt started to develop dementia, and now she's moved to live in South Africa with my cousin, her eldest daughter. So if I hadn't have taken the time to go and seek out that information, it would have been lost to me. So it's also worth bearing in mind that there's always a time limit on these things, because often you need to have conversations with other people, and often they're older people, your parents, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever, because they'll have known things about your childhood that you were not privy to, and we all die. So those people who have that information, they will die at some point. So if you don't actually seek out that information, you won't find it. Now, as it happens, my father's mother died when he was 5 years old, and I think that was the root of his anger management issue. Now, here's the thing. I will never know for sure if I'm right or wrong about that, but it doesn't matter because it absolutely fits with the available evidence. On the balance of probability, it's probably true, and I can use that to build it into a coherent narrative which helps me understand my own life. And that's it. You don't have to justify yourself to anyone, and it might be that your coherent narrative is not actually entirely true, but that doesn't matter because it only needs to serve you and help you move through life in a more positive manner. So thank you for giving me your time today. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe. And if you didn't enjoy the video, well, thanks for bearing with me. Peace.